Everyone keeps asking the same surface-level question. Who's the quarterback of the future? But that's not the real story unfolding right now. Because what's happening behind the scenes isn't just about one player winning a job. It's about power quietly shifting inside two NFL buildings at the same time, and most fans didn't notice it until it was already underway. On one side, you have a young quarterback who many believed was protected, a player tied closely to a head coach's vision, someone who was supposed to have time, patience, and a long runway to develop. And yet, suddenly, his status doesn't feel as secure as it did just weeks ago. On the other side, there's a coaching staff making subtle but deliberate moves, not loud announcements, not public declarations, just calculated decisions that hint at a very different direction than what fans were expecting. And then there's the name that keeps pulling attention, whether teams want it to or not. Shedeur Sanders. Not because of headlines, not because of hype alone, but because his skill set lines up almost too cleanly with what certain coaches are trying to build next. And when that alignment happens in the NFL, things move fast, sometimes faster than players are prepared for. What makes this situation even more complicated is that none of this has been officially confirmed. No trade requests, no depth chart shakeups, no press conferences spelling it out, just patterns, timing, and a few comments that raised eyebrows across league circles. Some fans believe this is being overblown. Others think something bigger is coming. And a few insiders have quietly suggested that one quarterback's future might already be drifting in a direction no one publicly wants to admit yet. Because once coaching philosophies change, loyalty usually follows. And once that happens, the quarterback room becomes less about potential and more about fit. But that still wasn't the full picture. Because when you connect the coaching decisions, the roster construction, and the silence coming from certain front offices, the conversation shifts entirely. And what happens next is where things get uncomfortable. For weeks, Dillon Gabriel's situation felt quiet, too quiet. And in the NFL, silence around a quarterback usually isn't a sign of confidence, it's a warning. On the surface, nothing dramatic has happened. No benching announcement, no public criticism, no trade request. But beneath that calm exterior, the ground has clearly started shifting. And once you connect the dots, it becomes obvious why Gabriel's status suddenly feels anything but secure. The first red flag is simple: who originally wanted him. Dillon Gabriel was never a universal pick. He was Kevin Stefanski's guy. Stefanski pushed for him, believed in him, and tied his vision of the offense to Gabriel's development. That matters because when the coach who championed you leaves, the safety net disappears instantly. Now Stefanski is gone, and with him goes the biggest reason Gabriel had leverage in the building. What replaces that? A new regime, a new philosophy, and most importantly, new eyes evaluating the quarterback room from scratch. Todd Monken didn't draft Dillon Gabriel, he didn't build his offense around him, and he has zero emotional attachment to protecting that decision. Coaches like Monken don't care about sunk costs, they care about execution, aggression, and fit. And that's where the second problem shows up. When Gabriel was on the field, the offense didn't scare anyone. The numbers tell the story clearly: under 60% completion, single-digit touchdowns, conservative decision-making in key moments, drives that stalled when the game demanded someone to go win it. That might be survivable under a defensive, run-heavy system, but under Monken, that's a mismatch. Monken's offenses are built to stretch the field, punish hesitation, and put pressure on defenses vertically. Playing not to lose doesn't work in that system. You either attack or you get replaced. And that leads directly to the third and most overlooked factor: staff changes. Monken is cleaning house. Coaches tied to the previous regime are being removed one by one, new voices are being brought in, new positions are being created specifically for the passing game. None of that is accidental. That kind of overhaul sends a message without saying a word. The evaluation process has restarted. And when that happens, quarterbacks tied to the old philosophy are always the most vulnerable. Dillon Gabriel isn't being pushed out publicly, he's being squeezed quietly, by scheme, by staffing, by direction. And in the NFL, when a quarterback starts feeling unstable before the headlines hit, the move usually comes next. Because once belief shifts inside the building, the outcome is almost always inevitable. If Dillon Gabriel does end up on the move, there's one destination that keeps surfacing for a reason. And it's not speculation, it's logic. Atlanta. At first glance, it feels random. Different conference, different roster, different timeline, but once you zoom out and look at who is now running things, the picture snaps into focus immediately. Kevin Stefanski didn't just like Dillon Gabriel, he advocated for him, he staked draft capital on him, he trusted him enough to put him on the field. That kind of connection doesn't disappear just because a coach changes cities. In the NFL, relationships travel faster than playbooks. Now Stefanski is in Atlanta, and the Falcons have a problem they can't ignore. Michael Penix Jr. is coming off knee surgery, and his availability for the start of the season isn't locked in. Kirk Cousins is expensive, aging, and clearly not a long-term answer. Atlanta is stuck in that dangerous middle ground where you're not rebuilding, but you're not stable either. That's exactly where coaches start looking for familiarity. Dillon Gabriel fits that profile perfectly. He's not a franchise savior, he's not a splash move, but he's someone Stefanski believes he can manage, protect, and plug into a system without resistance. And that matters because Stefanski's offenses have always prioritized structure over risk. Gabriel's conservative tendencies, the same traits that make him uncomfortable in Cleveland right now, actually work better in a Stefanski-style offense. Short throws, rhythm passes, ball control, low volatility. In other words, the very reasons he feels expendable under Todd Monken are the reasons Stefanski would still want him. That's also why the trade chatter isn't loud yet. This wouldn't be a blockbuster. It wouldn't require premium picks. It's the type of deal that happens quietly mid-offseason when teams reassess quarterback depth and realize a fifth-round pick is worth more than a stalled development project. And Atlanta fans already sense the chaos. They've seen this movie before. Familiar coaches bringing in familiar players, familiar systems repeating familiar mistakes. That's why the reaction hasn't been excitement, it's been skepticism. But skepticism doesn't stop moves from happening. Because for Stefanski, this isn't about proving critics wrong, it's about control. And Dillon Gabriel represents control, a quarterback who won't challenge authority, won't freelance, and won't force evolution. That's why this potential reunion keeps resurfacing. Not because Gabriel is thriving, but because he's comfortable for the one coach still willing to bet on him. And when comfort meets opportunity in the NFL, deals get done, even when fans hate them. But here's the twist. What's best for Atlanta might be exactly what Cleveland needs. Because Dillon Gabriel leaving doesn't just create space. It signals who this team truly belongs to now. What's happening in Cleveland isn't loud. There's no press release announcing a quarterback decision, no dramatic declaration, but make no mistake, a decision is being made. And it's happening through actions, not words. Todd Monken didn't arrive to evaluate, he arrived to reshape. And the first thing he did was remove anything that didn't fit the direction he already had in mind. That's why the coaching changes matter more than the rumors. Hearing a dedicated pass game coordinator after years of run-heavy football wasn't accidental. Bringing in new wide receiver coaches wasn't cosmetic. Those moves weren't about fixing the past, they were about building an offense that demands a very specific type of quarterback. And that quarterback is not Dillon Gabriel. Monken's offenses have always leaned toward aggression. He wants throws that challenge windows. He wants quarterbacks who attack, not protect. He wants playmakers who turn broken plays into advantages instead of checkdowns. That philosophy clashes directly with what Gabriel has shown so far. The film tells the story the box score doesn't. Late downs, tight moments, third and long situations where the offense needed a decision, not caution. Gabriel played not to lose. Monken doesn't coach that way. And here where it gets interesting. While Gabriel's role has quietly stalled, the infrastructure around Shedeur Sanders has been expanding. Better receiver coaching, a coordinator dedicated to designing passing concepts, an offense shifting away from pounding the rock 40 times a game. Those aren't neutral changes. Those are investments. Monken hasn't said this is Shedeur's team, but he doesn't need to. Coaches reveal their intentions by what they prioritize, and every priority so far points in one direction. That's why the quarterback room suddenly feels crowded and tense. It's not about competition anymore, it's about alignment. Gabriel represents a previous vision, Sanders represents the new one, and in the NFL, once a coaching staff commits to a vision, patience for misalignment disappears fast. Some fans believe this is about favoritism, others think it's about upside. The truth is simpler. It's about control of the offense. Monken isn't interested in managing hesitation. He wants to dictate pace, stress defenses, and force opponents to react. That requires trust, and trust comes from style, not draft status. That's why Gabriel's name keeps coming up in trade conversations even without a formal announcement. He doesn't fit the offense being built around him anymore. And when a quarterback stops fitting the offense, the clock starts ticking quietly but relentlessly. Cleveland hasn't pushed him out, but they've stopped pulling him in. And that's usually the clearest sign of all. Because once a team builds an offense that doesn't need you, the exit becomes a matter of when, not if. If Dillon Gabriel were just another young quarterback struggling to find footing, this would be a quiet situation. Development takes time, teams stay patient. But this isn't just about performance. It's about history. And that's why Atlanta keeps surfacing in every serious discussion around Gabriel's future. Kevin Stefanski's connection to Dillon Gabriel isn't speculative, it's documented. Reports claim Stefanski strongly supported drafting Gabriel, pushed for his development, and trusted him when others hesitated. That matters. In the NFL, belief is currency, and Stefanski has already spent plenty of it on Gabriel. Now Stefanski is in Atlanta. And suddenly, the Falcons' quarterback situation doesn't look as settled as it once did. Michael Penix Jr. is coming off knee surgery. Kirk Cousins carries a massive contract and questions about long-term flexibility. Atlanta has options, but none without risk. That's where Gabriel's name enters the picture. Not as a savior, as a familiar solution. Some fans believe this is Stefanski doubling down. Others think it's simply contingency planning. Either way, the fit makes sense on paper. A coach reuniting with a quarterback he already trusts is one of the most common NFL moves, especially when job security is involved. And that's the part people avoid saying out loud. Coaches don't just build rosters, they protect themselves. Stefanski knows Gabriel's strengths. He knows the limitations too, but he also knows how to call an offense around him. That comfort level is powerful, especially in a league where uncertainty gets coaches fired fast. Still, this isn't a universally popular idea. Atlanta fans haven't exactly embraced the rumor. Social media reaction has been blunt. Some fans question why the franchise would gamble on a quarterback Cleveland appears ready to move on from. Others see it as repeating a cycle they're desperate to escape. That pushback matters, because it creates pressure before any move even happens. But pressure has never stopped NFL reunions before. If anything, it accelerates them. When a coach believes he can unlock something others couldn't, skepticism becomes fuel, not resistance. And from Cleveland's side, the timing couldn't be cleaner. A roster reset, a new offensive identity, a quarterback the staff didn't choose. If there's a trade market forming, this is when teams quietly listen. Nothing has been announced, nothing is finalized, and to be clear, this remains unconfirmed. But the dots are close enough that fans are already connecting them. And once that starts happening, front offices know the conversation has escaped the building. Atlanta represents familiarity for Gabriel. Cleveland represents change. And in the NFL, quarterbacks rarely survive being caught between the two. Because when a coach moves on, he usually brings his guy with him. And that possibility is starting to feel less like speculation and more like momentum. At some point, every quarterback conversation turns unavoidable. The numbers. And for Dillon Gabriel, the numbers are exactly why this situation refuses to settle down. On paper, his production doesn't scream disaster, but it doesn't demand patience either. Limited starts, under 1,000 passing yards, a completion rate hovering below what teams expect from a long-term answer. few touchdowns, a couple costly mistakes. That's not a disaster, but it's not a statement. And in today's NFL, neutral performances don't buy time. That's why the fan reaction has been so sharp. Cleveland fans aren't debating potential anymore, they're debating direction. Social media hasn't been subtle. Some fans argue Gabriel was never given a fair runway. Others believe the coaching staff protected him instead of pushing him. And that split tells you everything. When fans stop arguing about how good a quarterback is and start arguing about whether he belongs at all, the narrative has already shifted. Atlanta fans, meanwhile, are watching from a distance and reacting fast. The idea of trading for a quarterback Cleveland seems ready to move on from has sparked skepticism. Comments questioning size, ceiling, and fit started popping up almost immediately. That reaction matters more than people realize. Front offices notice when fan sentiment turns negative before a move even happens. It doesn't always stop a trade, but it changes how it's framed. Suddenly, a developmental piece becomes a low-risk flyer. Language shifts when expectations drop. And then there's the comparison that won't go away. Shedeur Sanders. Whether fair or not, Gabriel's performance has been measured against Sanders since the moment both were in the same room. Every conservative throw, every late-down hesitation, every stalled drive. Some fans believe Gabriel was asked to manage games while Sanders was allowed to attack. Others argue Sanders simply executed better when given opportunities. What matters isn't who's right. What matters is that the comparison exists at all. Because once a quarterback becomes the other option, the margin for error disappears. That's why this debate keeps resurfacing. It's not about one throw or one game, it's about momentum and who's gaining it. Cleveland's offseason moves have fueled that momentum. A passing coordinator, new receiver coaches, a philosophical shift that rewards confidence over caution. Those changes amplify every stat line, every clip, every decision under pressure. And suddenly, Gabriel's numbers aren't just numbers anymore. They're evidence used by both sides. Evidence that he deserves more time. Or evidence that the team has already seen enough. And that tension is exactly why trade rumors don't fade. They grow. Because when a quarterback's stats spark debate instead of belief, the league starts asking the same question fans already are. Is this a player you build around? Or one you move before the answer becomes obvious? And that question is following Dillon Gabriel everywhere right now, whether he's on the field or not. The NFL doesn't wait for clarity. It forces it. And that's why this offseason matters more than any stat line or rumor floating around right now. Cleveland's quarterback room isn't just crowded, it's unsustainable. Multiple young passers, a coaching staff installing a new offense, limited reps, limited patience, something has to give. And historically, when teams hit this point, they don't choose slowly. They choose early. That's what makes Todd Monken's timeline so important. Free agency, OTAs, training camp installations, those aren't evaluation periods, they're commitment phases. Coaches design offenses around who they trust before the games begin. That's why every move this offseason feels like a signal. If Gabriel stays through early installs, it suggests real competition. If his name keeps surfacing in trade conversations, it suggests something else entirely. And so far, the noise hasn't slowed down. Some reports claim Cleveland is listening. Others suggest the Falcons are monitoring rather than pushing. None of it is confirmed, but the consistency of the chatter matters. Rumors don't persist this long without internal fuel. And then there's the money side. Rookie contracts are assets. Backup quarterbacks are replaceable. Front offices know when to flip value before it disappears. If Cleveland believes Gabriel isn't part of the long-term plan, the smart move is to act now before he becomes just another name on a depth chart. That's where Atlanta re-enters the conversation. A familiar coach, a system fit, a roster that needs flexibility. It's not about handing Gabriel the keys, it's about creating options without starting over. From Cleveland's perspective, a trade wouldn't be an indictment. It would be a declaration. A declaration that the offense is being built with a different quarterback in mind. A declaration that development paths have diverged. a declaration that the reset is complete. And for Shedeur Sanders, that clarity matters. Quarterbacks develop faster when they're not glancing over their shoulder, when the locker room knows who the staff believes in, when the offense isn't split between identities. That's what Monken is chasing. Not drama. Direction. Some fans believe this is happening too fast. Others argue it's already overdue. Both sides agree on one thing: the status quo won't hold. The NFL rewards decisiveness. Indecision gets punished. And right now, Cleveland stands at that fork in the road. They can drag this into camp, risk division, and let uncertainty leak into the locker room. Or they can act early, define the future, and accept the noise that comes with it. One choice creates questions. The other creates headlines. And whichever path Cleveland chooses, it's going to reshape more than just one quarterback's future. Because once this offseason ends, there's no room left for ambiguity. Only consequences. Nothing has happened yet. No trade call confirmed, no depth chart released, no announcement tying all these threads together. But the direction is hard to ignore. Cleveland didn't change its coaching staff by accident. Todd Monken didn't overhaul the offense to preserve a quarterback he didn't choose. And the league doesn't keep connecting Dillon to Atlanta without a reason. This isn't chaos. It's convergence. Dillon represents continuity with a previous era, one Cleveland is actively distancing itself from. Kevin Stefanski represents belief in a quarterback many others questioned. And Atlanta represents the rare place where those two paths still intersect. Some fans believe this reunion is inevitable, others think it's leverage, and some argue it never happens at all. That uncertainty is the point. Because whether Gabriel is traded or not, the message inside Cleveland's building is already clear. The offense is being designed for a quarterback who attacks, improvises, and embraces risk. The staff hires, the scheme changes, the philosophical shift. They all lean the same way. And once that becomes obvious in the locker room, quarterbacks feel it before reporters ever do. That's why this moment matters more than any rumor. If Gabriel stays, he enters a system that doesn't naturally elevate his strengths. If he goes, Cleveland confirms what many fans already suspect, that the future belongs to someone else. And for Atlanta, the risk isn't just performance. It's perception. Taking on a quarterback, Cleveland appears ready to move on from invites scrutiny. But it also offers familiarity, cost control, and a coach who already believes he can make it work. NFL history is full of moves like this, some that revived careers, others that quietly ended them. Which one this becomes depends on timing. Because once free agency opens and installations begin, the window narrows fast. What feels like speculation today becomes irreversible tomorrow. And here's the part no one says out loud. This isn't just about Dillon. It's about how quickly teams move on when belief disappears. Quarterbacks don't lose jobs all at once, they lose them in pieces. Fewer designed plays, fewer reps, fewer defenders worried about what's coming. By the time it's official, the decision was already made months earlier. So when you hear these rumors, don't ask if they're true. Ask why they won't go away. Because in the NFL, the stories that linger usually end up becoming reality. And when this one finally resolves, it won't just tell us where Dillon lands. It'll tell us who Cleveland truly believes in, and how fast the league moves when that belief shifts. That's the part worth watching. And it's only just getting started. At first glance, this looked like a simple quarterback debate. Who starts, who sits, who gets traded. But the deeper you look, the clearer it becomes, this was never just about one QB. It was about belief. In the NFL, belief is everything. Coaches don't just run plays, they invest their reputations. And when that belief shifts, the entire structure around a quarterback starts to change quietly, piece by piece. That's what we're seeing here. Cleveland didn't just add a few assistants, they rebuilt the offensive brain trust, a dedicated pass game coordinator, new voices in the receiver room, a system designed to push the ball, not protect it. Those aren't neutral moves, they signal intent. And intent tells you who a team is preparing to ride with. Dillon didn't suddenly become a bad quarterback. But he was drafted, developed, and defended by a coach who's no longer in the building. In this league, that matters more than stats ever will. Once a quarterback is tied to a previous regime, the clock starts ticking, whether fans want to admit it or not. Some fans believe a trade to Atlanta makes too much sense to ignore. Others think it's smoke. And to be clear, none of this is confirmed. These are reports, league chatter, and patterns teams have followed countless times before. The patterns don't lie. Atlanta represents familiarity, a coach who already believes in Gabriel, a front office facing uncertainty at the position, and a fan base already bracing for turbulence. That combination creates opportunity and pressure. Meanwhile, Cleveland is moving forward. Not loudly, not recklessly, but decisively. This isn't about disrespecting one quarterback to elevate another. It's about alignment. Scheme alignment, personality alignment, competitive alignment. And right now, everything Cleveland is doing points in one direction. That's why this moment matters. Quarterback decisions don't always come with announcements. They come with silence, with reduced patience, with systems that stop bending. By the time the public realizes what's happened, the decision has already been made. So when people ask what happens next, they're asking the wrong question. The real question is this: how long can a quarterback survive once a franchise stops building around him? Because once belief moves on, the NFL never waits. And when this situation finally resolves, whether through a trade, a depth chart change, or something no one expects, it won't just define Dillon Gabriel's future. It will reveal how fast the league moves when a new era quietly takes over. That's what this story has always been about. And it's far from over.